So I entered the industry in the late 90s, so it was a boom time in the industry. In this region then a lot of people were converting from broadacre to viticulture. But what attracted me was the combination between art, science and agriculture. So it is quite a varied job, and at different times of the year I can be technical in ag or I can be creative. So that suits my personality, the diversity. So when I came in, the industry now is very different to what it was in the early 2000s or the late 90s when I started. I think that my biggest influences in just holding my ground have been probably my parents, my mum and my dad. Just doing what you do. I don't get too swept up in all the peripheral vision. I just sort of do my job and then go home. I think now women in the industry, I would like to think it is a welcoming space for women, and I certainly try and encourage that in the team that I'm building. The creativity is what draws you to winemaking in the beginning. It's just been a bit of a journey and a pivot every now and then as I've navigated my career and had children and done different roles. So there hasn't never been a light bulb moment where this is what I'm meant to do. I think, and I don't know if there ever will be, because as the kind of person that I am, I don't ever feel like my job's finished. So I'm always thinking about the next thing, the next improvement or the next opportunity or the next wine or whatever. So am I where I'm meant to be? Yes, I love my job and I feel comfortable in it, but I don't think there'll be an end to my role. I love that there's more women in the industry. So my key is what I think about in my team and the wines we make is diversity. So we used to make wines all very similarly to a style, but I like to think that we have diversity of gender and culture and wine styles, our markets. So I think that what gives me hope is accepting the diversity within our community, therefore our business, and therefore the wines we make aren't just things that we would drink. They're things that we wouldn't drink, therefore we've got a diverse range that'll suit a lot of different people. 2025 was a really big vintage. So when you're pushed that far out of your comfort zone, so we basically took in 25% more than we thought we would. You always learn something about yourself. So it sort of goes back to what I said prior, which is I don't see myself or my role as ever finished or not learning. Every vintage, there's something different that we learn. This year I learned about scale and how to bring in that amount of tonnes through the winery. And I'm really proud of what the team achieved and how we managed to do that. And you see more of your team than you do of your families. So we've just finished that and we still get along. So that's a good thing that we've spent all that time together, done all that work, and it's still a nice environment to be. I've always been more gut instinct, probably a little bit less patient, but gut instinct is what's driven me to make most of my decisions in winemaking and life generally. My job's very different because I have a large team, and so they do the nuances of day to day, and I'm probably more a support and a guidance and maybe just triaging any problems or hiccups along the way. Varietal integrity needs to be philosophy for what we make. So without sounding too romantic about it all, we still do, the art in winemaking still is the integrity of variety. So even though we're making wines that have got a lot of oak or a little bit of oak or a lot of sugar, whatever the artifact is in it, they still need to look like their heritage, like a Cabernet or a Chardonnay, or whatever it should be. Hopefully, it's that integrity of variety and that purity. Yeah. In 2016, I was a finalist for Women in Wine Awards. And at that point in time, I was working part-time, but I was doing some viticulture projects that I think led to that nomination. And I won that award against some company that I consider like rockstar winemakers. So that moment was quite pivotal for me because after that, I lent into my role as a winemaker a little bit more. I had a bit more confidence to do that. I'm big on innovation. So we as winemakers, our industry has been doing the same thing for hundreds of years and just selling a different story, like whoever's got the best story. So literally you could make wine, You can put a bunch of grapes in a bucket. As long as you adjust the pH, you're going to get wine. It's not that hard. It's selling a different story. So I think we're at a stage where I'm quite excited about innovation and using technology to make our wines better or cheaper or bringing us to the next level. History will always be there and will be a big part of it, but I think the consumers are tired of hearing the same story rebranded. This is probably not a very good answer for public, but it's just personal opinion on the industry needs to evolve quite quickly, I think. So regarding sustainability, I think my philosophy for life, work, home in general, would just be consume less. If everyone just consumed less, had less waste everywhere, it'd be a better world. So let's not waste food. Let's not buy stuff we don't need. Let's not add it to wine if we don't need it. Just consume less. We are severely affected in this region, I feel, by climate change, and I see that with not just the warmer summer temperatures, but the unpredictable weather events throughout the season. So I grew up here. I left for about 10 years working, but in my childhood growing up, it was warm, it was hot in summer, and it was cold in winter, and it was cold and wet, and it was hot and dry. And now we have these unpredictable weather events throughout the season, and rain during harvest has massive impact. So we have to be able to adapt to that. But it's how we do that, I'm not sure, because it's very difficult to, and there isn't an easy answer, I would say. So our customers, or more and more people, are asking for what we are doing that is sustainable. And if we aren't, there isn't even a seat at the table to look at our wines. So it's really important. Being honest and transparent about it is really important, which is, I suppose, the third-party audits that we do with SWA certification and things like that. You can't have any ego to work here because we are at the least romantic end of the industry. So to make your living here, you have to work harder to a degree and be more creative with what you're doing because it's the least romantic end of the industry. Having said that, I worked at Penfolds and I was in the red team, so making wines that were worth hundreds of dollars a bottle. And then I went to Casella. That was my next position, was a senior winemaker at Casella, and they were in their growth phase. This is 05 and 07, I think. So I could not have chosen two more different wineries to work at. Most premium and the most high volume in the country. The skill sets that I learned at those two different wineries were worlds apart. If I could only drink and make one wine for the rest of my life, it would be Chardonnay. Chardonnay can just have many different forms. I love the way it responds to artifact and to oak. I love everything about it. And it's the one wine that I keep tasting and thinking, how was that made? And where did that bit of sulfide come from? Or what oak did they use? Or what did their lees look like? It's just, I find it really interesting to unpack the way all the different styles of that variety can be made. So we produce very good early release wines, and I think because of the having no ego, being at the least romantic end of the industry, the people that are here want to be here and are connected to it. So I think we can produce them better than most other people in the country. So the warm climate, those early release wines, we can do it better than most people. And whenever we're making or selling wine to UK or whatever people we're talking to, I actually tell them we can do a lot of this style and quality of wine, and I call our Chardonnay sunshine in a glass. It's just rock melons and peaches, and it is delicious, and most people in the world will pick it up and drink it and go, that was a great drink. They won't have to overthink it. They will just enjoy it, and that's what we do really well. I'm always happier when I'm outdoors, and I think that's partly what led me into this role. So even on the weekends, I'll be outdoors most of the time. So connection to natural native landscape, I feel comfortable. That has led me to wanting to be more involved in viticulture. I've never made any quirky wines that have got, herbs and spices and natural tonics in there or anything, but I think all my best thinking and thoughts and my brain processing happens when I'm outdoors. So if there's a particularly hard day in the office, I'll go to vineyards and I'll walk the rows and I'll be like, righto, now I've got my head sorted and I'll come back. I'm fortunate that I have other people throughout my times in the Barossa that I still call, female winemakers, and say, how did you do this? How did you do that? So I'm realising that other people may see me as that person, and I'm happy to be that. It's so lovely here to have connections with other wineries, because sometimes my role can be a little bit isolating. So I have certain people at other wineries that I'll call throughout vintage as I'm driving between vineyards, and I'll be like, hey, have you got this problem? How are you handling it? What can we do? So I think the connection between wineries in this region is quite strong. I'd just like more people to drink wine. That's all I want. More people to drink wine. That's it. For me, I think the walls are broken. I don't feel particularly like a woman in wine. I just feel like a winemaker. So that's a good step. I hope other people in the industry feel like that. The role that I play is that I recognise I'm a manager of a young team. So I hope that the women in that team feel equally like that. They just feel like a winemaker. I would probably choose it again, because there's a passion and a love and a change in the industry that supersedes that. It takes a unique person to want to work that much and drive that hard, do all that stuff. So the advice to a young woman would be, if it is your passion, whether it's winemaking or something else, just lean in and the rest will work itself out. But the journey can be lumpy at times, so just make sure the passion is strong enough. So underneath it all, I just hope that you can be the best winemaker in the world and you can win all the awards and whatever, but if you're not a kind or a good person, I don't think that's worth much. So I've lent into my role, but still hopefully I'm a good person at the end of the day.